Hi there. I'm going to do a little demo of this really lovely Halda Speedpilot. This is a Mark V Sports Special, which is the last revision of the many revisions, I think there were 30 of them, of the Speedpilot over the many years that they made them. And this reflects all the little subtle changes and improvements that they made along the way. So if you're looking for a good Speedpilot, this is really a nice one. Let's start with the layout of the panel. What we've got here is on the left is a dial that's calibrated in miles per hour. They're also available in kilometers per hour, but this one is miles per hour. And you can see it's calibrated from 25 to 90 miles an hour. And this is where you set the average speed that you're trying to maintain. Right below it is an odometer. And on the right side is a clock. And the clock also has, aside from the minute and the hour hand, has another little red pointer that I'll explain that is the perfect time. And the idea is to match, to keep the red pointer aligned with the minute hand of the clock. So I'm going to explain how all the knobs and adjustments work. Let me put this little overlay on here, and that'll make it more obvious. There are 5 knobs. The first knob, the one in the lower left hand corner, is the odometer. And if you turn it clockwise, you can see that that's how you reset the odometer to 0. Just keep turning until it gets to 0. If you pull it out all the way, it allows you to make little adjustments to the odometer to correct for any inaccuracies of your mileage. I'm going to push it back in now. The next knob, the one with the red circle on it, is the way you set the average speed. So if you turn it, you can see that the red pointer here is moving, and that's the way you set the average speed. The reason the light is blinking is that the ground is not very well attached, so it's going to flash here. So I'm going to set the average speed at 30 miles an hour, which is a nice happy number because at 30 miles an hour it takes you 2 minutes to go a mile. If you pull out this knob, the average speed knob, it now moves the pointer on the clock dial. So if you were going to start an average speed section, the idea is that you would arrange the 2 pointers so that they line up exactly. The knob on the lower right is how you wind the clock, and it winds like a normal clock. And if you pull it out, that's the way you set the clock. So that's all pretty obvious. The knob in the upper left hand corner, this has 3 positions. It has an off position, it has a full scale position, and it has a half scale position. The idea of the half scale position, it gives you double precision on the average speed setting. So in half scale, I've got it set for 30, that would be 15 miles an hour. So it just gives you twice the precision. So we're going to put it in full scale because that's the easiest one to deal with. And then the last knob is the one in the upper right hand corner, and that's for on-the-road adjustment of the odometer. So if you found that your odometer is running a little fast or a little slow compared to the Rally Masters odometer, you can make adjustments there, and it's actually calibrated plus or minus 15%, so there's a lot of leeway. That's the basic layout, and I think the best way to explain it is to let's turn the odometer cable and see what happens. So let me re-zero the odometer. Okay, so we're back to 0. Got it set at 30 miles an hour, and let's set the average speed, the perfect time, to now. So now when I turn the speedometer cable, and I'm just going to turn it by hand, if you notice the odometer, it's turning. So we've gone 0.2 of a mile. And if you look at the little red pointer here, it's advancing as well. And because I'm not driving the car, we've gone 0.5 mile, which is pretty fast. And you can see that the red pointer is in front of the minute pointer, and that means you're early. So if we were to go a whole mile, 0.7 of a mile, 0.8 of a mile, 0.9 of a mile. Okay, so now we've gone a whole mile, and you can see that the red pointer has advanced 2 minutes from where we started. And we're about 1 minute and 20 seconds early because it didn't take us 2 minutes to go that mile. That's the basic idea. And if you change the average speed, if we went up to 60 miles an hour, and we go another mile, so if you notice the red pointer is at about 18.5 minutes. If we go another mile, and we're going to do it at warp speed here, go 0.8, 0.9, there's the mile. It's taken us another minute. So that's the basic idea. It's pretty crude, but as an early rally computer, it was about the best you could get in the early 60s. That's the way it works. Let me show you how it works inside, because that's really the interesting part. So I'm going to pull the shell off of it and give you a peek inside. Disconnect the light. And what we've got here is a whole lot of gears. It's really pretty wild in the non-electrical world. If I put a speedometer cable into the input and turn it, you can see that a lot of things going around. The basic idea is that for every revolution of the speedometer cable, it's geared to move the average speed pointer a certain amount of distance, depending on how you have the average speed set. And the way the adjustment is made is that there's a little pawl here. I don't know if you can see it, but that pawl engages the gear train for a certain amount of time. So depending on how you have the average speed set, it might engage that pawl for 5% of a revolution, or 8% or 10%, and then it basically goes on and off. It makes a lot of racket when you're actually turning it, and that's why it makes so much noise, because it's turning the thing on and off so that the numbers come out right. The rest of it is a conventional odometer gear train and a clock. Halda actually started as a clock company. That's kind of what's inside here. It's pretty crazy. This one has been completely taken apart and cleaned up, degreased, and adjusted back to factory spec, which is not an easy trick. It's really in good condition. This one, it looks brand new. There's no scratches, all the knobs are intact, everything works great. So if you want a really special Speedpilot, this is the one to get. Let me show you a couple other things here. When the shell is on, there's a access port here that allows you to make adjustments to the number of revolutions that the speedometer needs to turn to indicate a mile. As it comes from the factory, it's set up so that the cable into the back of your speedometer has to turn 900 revolutions a mile. But it's adjustable. So depending on the size of tires that you have and whatever, your speedometer cable might turn 800 revolutions a mile, or it might turn 1122 revolutions in a mile. So from where you start at 900, you can make an adjustment that allows it to agree with statute miles, and it's 1.0667% per turn of the little screw that's accessible through this port. Complete instructions are provided. It's pretty simple to do. You need to run a measured mile or measure the rolling circumference of your tire, and then make the adjustments, do it again, and you'll get pretty close. The other adjustment here is for the clock, and kind of like a conventional clock, you can tweak it a little bit plus, a little bit minus, to try to get it to read as good as it's going to read. It is a mechanical clock. It's good for, I don't know, 3 minutes a day. It takes some tweaking to get there, but it's a pretty good clock. But if you're a hardcore rallyist, you're going to have to adjust it a couple times a day. That's it. This comes with all the mounting hardware. The photographs in the eBay listing show all the goodies. You need 2 T's to run this thing. One plugs into the back of the Speedpilot, and the other one goes on the back of your speedometer. The one that goes on the back of the Speedpilot is provided with this Speedpilot. The one that goes on the back of your speedometer, you're going to have to source from another vendor, find it online. There are a lot of them available on eBay. Because every car has different fittings on the speedometer, there's no way that I can provide that unless you tell me what you got, and maybe I have one. But they're pretty accessible. Anyway, that's it. Halda Speedpilot Mark V Sport Special. This is a beauty. Thank you.